Welcome back to Food for Thought. In our last episode, we discussed rations and food procurement during the Civil War. Today, we are going to be looking at how soldiers ate during World War I. Spoiler alert, there are some improvements, but getting good nutrition while on the front lines is still a problem for American soldiers. World War I, known then as the Great War, began in June of 1914. But it would be 2.5 years before the U.S. would enter the war. President Wilson ran on a ticket that supported U.S. neutrality. But that stance changed after British intelligence intercepted the Zimmerman Telegraph in January of 1917. In the telegraph, Germany urged Mexico to join forces against the United States, and in return, they would return Texas and the Southwest to the Mexican government. Mexico ignored the request, and the U.S. declared war on Germany. Much like during the Civil War, soldiers were able to receive warm and heartier meals while encamped. But when marching or on the front lines, it was difficult to get proper nutrition. The trench ration was developed early on in the war to address this problem. Soldiers fighting in the front lines needed to be supplied with their daily rations, but cooked food prepared at field kitchens was sometimes spoiled by gas attacks. The trench ration was the answer. It was a variety of canned meats, usually salmon, corned beef, sardines, or others, that were commercially procured and sealed in a large tin box covered in canvas. Unfortunately, it was bulky and heavy, and the soldiers began to get weary of the limited menu, and it was soon replaced by the reserve ration. The reserve ration was first issued during the latter part of World War I to feed troops who were away from a garrison or field kitchen. As you can see, it contained some similar items to the marching rations we saw from the Civil War. Notice those hardtack biscuits there? One major difference was that a lot of the meals that were given to World War I soldiers were contained in one singular tin can. This made their shelf life much longer, and they were much easier to carry. Additionally, soldiers during World War I had a tin canteen, as well as plates that were easily travelable and could turn into skillets if needed. There was also a separate tobacco ration of 0.4 ounces of tobacco and 10 cigarette rolling papers, later replaced by brand name machine-rolled cigarettes, and they were most of the time sent over by the American Red Cross. This ration was supposed to boost the morale of the World War I soldiers, even if they were a little hungry. Although most people associate rationing with World War II, state and federal ration programs were first implemented during World War I. The United States needed more food than ever to feed people at home, soldiers at home and abroad, and the people in war-torn Europe. President Woodrow Wilson asked Herbert Hoover to head the United States Food Administration to coordinate food conservation and distribution. The department encouraged conservation of food resources by publishing a series of patriotic posters. The message was urgent: to save food, don't waste it. Hoover believed that the American people would eagerly join the war effort. Volunteers went from house to house, asking families to make pledges to save food. Schools urged children to grow their own food, and family gardens were renamed Victory Gardens. With "Food will win the war" as his motto, Hoover soon had millions eating cornbread, oatmeal, and fish dishes. Approximately 20 million American families pledged to eat less meat, butter, milk, sugar, and wheat. Corn or vegetable oil was substituted for butter and lard, with cornbread substituted for wheat bread. Families were given cards to hang in their kitchen, telling them exactly what to save and why. Children were urged to take the Child's No Waste Pledge, agreeing to not despise my crusts of bread, nor make complaint, whatever fed. They were also asked to forgo certain items on certain days of the week, like in this Remember the Days flyer, in order to conserve food. How would you do in following this schedule? Join us in our next Food for Thought episode where we discuss rationing during World War II. Do you think that you could conserve or even grow your own victory garden? How about recycling everything that you use? Now that's some food for thought.